Today we have an iPhone 10 with a damaged battery connector. You can also see up there in the top right hand corner we are missing a capacitor, and these two small connections here are very important in order for the phone to communicate with the battery. So in the state that this is in right now, that's going to be a problem. And of course we want this capacitor because there are only two in the BAT VCC circuit, so I believe it's pretty important that both of those are present. So we are going to start by taking this off the board. You may want to clear some of this black stuff out from around where the connector is located, but for the most part it will help keep those other components in place once we get this warm enough for the solder on the board to melt. Because we're working near the edge of the board, I would recommend you set your heat slightly lower than what you would usually use for working on iPhone surface mount components. I want to say mine is set to about 410 Celsius, but I do have my airflow low at 30 liters per minute. I am also going to add a bit of flux here before we slide this off. And we'll go ahead and put some fresh solder here where the capacitor goes while we're at it. And the board is nice and warm. And once this thing liquefies, we'll just go ahead and slide it right off. And then we can clean up the area. Now I did think that I had enough room to work here, but you'll see later on in the video I do go back and clear some of that black stuff out of the way. Right now we're just going to heat up the board and get some fresh solder on all of these areas where the connector goes. We'll go ahead and set our capacitor in place. That way we can just heat this thing up and get both components on at the same time. Right, so let's go ahead and line this up as close as we can get it to where it needs to be. And that's probably good enough as is, but if you want, you can go back over this with your soldering iron. It's going to be a little trickier on that top edge, so like I said before, you'll want to move some of that black tarry stuff out of the way so that you can get in there. Yeah, pretty tight squeeze right here. So we'll go ahead and hit this one on the side. And these are on pretty solid at this point, but like I mentioned before, you just want to be certain this thing's never going to fall off. So I'm going to make some space in here and then we can go touch these connectors up. Just want to be very careful not to melt the plastic while you're down in this area. And you can see I'm using the combination of hot air with my soldering iron because it's a little tricky to get just the very small tip of the iron warm enough to melt the solder. Alright, let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit so we can see what we're working with. Alright, that's looking pretty decent, so we're going to go ahead and just kind of flow these joints out with some hot air to make them look nice and smooth like they came from the factory. Then we'll go back over this and clean it up with some 99% rubbing alcohol, and we should be good to go.